If the volume buttons on your Apple TV remotes aren't working, this is how to fix them. If your Apple TV remotes aren't working at all, I've made a separate video to fix this problem. There is a link in the notes, or you can find this video on my channel. If your Apple TV remote is operating normally and it's just the volume buttons that aren't working, I've got 3 ways to help fix the problem. The first is to restart the Apple TV remote. To restart, you press the TV icon button and the volume minus button together. Keep them both held down for around 5 seconds and then release. This will restart the remote and temporarily disconnect it from your Apple TV box. Wait a few seconds and then press the back button to reconnect, and then try the volume buttons to see if they work. If the volume buttons still aren't working, it's time to have a look at the settings in your Apple TV box. To check the volume settings on Apple TV, go to the Settings app, then select Remotes and Devices. From here, move down to Volume Control. This is usually set to Auto, but you can try TV via IR, then check to see if the volume buttons work. Here's a tip if you need to set the volume buttons to IR, which is infrared. Infrared requires line of sight from the end of the remote to your device. So in the case of TVs, make sure there are no books or ornaments blocking the signal from the remote to your TV. For most TVs, the infrared receiver is somewhere in the bottom frame of the TV. Same if you're using a soundbar. Make sure there's nothing blocking the signal between the remote and your soundbar, and particular for amplifiers. Amplifiers are often stored in cupboards and maybe behind closed doors. Infrared does not work through solid objects. All other buttons on the Apple TV remote are controlled via Bluetooth. Bluetooth does not need line of sight, which is why you can keep your Apple TV box hidden away in a cupboard and it still works. Step 3, if the volume buttons still aren't working, you may need to manually teach the Apple TV remote how to control your system. To do this, we'll need to go back to the Settings app on your Apple TV. To manually teach the volume buttons from the original TV, soundbar or amplifier remote, go to Settings, then select Remotes and Devices. From here, move down to Volume Control, and we're going to learn a new device. At this point, you'll need to find the original remote control for your TV, soundbar or amplifier ready to point towards the front of your Apple TV box. The only difference between the silver Apple TV remote and the black remote is the silver one has a mute button and the black one does not. Press and hold the volume up button, followed by the volume down button, and finally press and hold the mute button. You can then name your device, select Done, enter. Once saved, make sure you have selected the remote you have just learned. Then check the volume buttons again. So to recap, if the volume buttons aren't working on your Apple TV remote, try restarting the remote control. Also check the volume control settings in Apple TV. Make sure there is nothing blocking the line of sight from your remote, and you can also manually teach from the original remote controls. Let me know in the comments which one of these worked for you. And if your Apple TV remotes have stopped working altogether, I've made a separate video to help you fix this. Subscribe or follow Tech with Tony to receive new tips and to explore the back catalogue. I'll see you there.